Hi, welcome to today's lecture on plant breeding and genetics. Plant breeding is a fascinating and essential field in agriculture, helping us develop better crops for food security, nutrition, and climate resilience. It combines principles of genetics and biotechnology to improve plant traits like yield, disease resistance, and quality. The science of plant breeding dates back thousands of years when humans first started selecting the best plants for cultivation. However, it was Gregor Mendel, known as the father of genetics, who laid the foundation for modern plant breeding through his experiments on pea plants in the 19th century. Since then, plant breeding has evolved tremendously, using advanced genetic techniques to create high-performing crops. In this lecture, we will cover the fundamentals of genetics, the principles and methods of plant breeding, its objectives, and modern advancements in this field. Fundamental concepts of genetics. Before we dive into plant breeding, it's important to understand the basics of genetics. At the core of plant genetics are genes, which are units of heredity that determine a plant's traits, such as color, height, yield, and resistance to diseases. Genes exist in different versions called alleles, and they're inherited from parent plants. Plant breeding is based on Mendelian genetics, which includes three fundamental principles. 1. The law of segregation. This states that each plant inherits two alleles for a trait, one from each parent, but only one is passed on to the next generation. 2. The law of independent assortment. This explains how different traits are inherited independently of one another. 3. The law of dominance. Some traits are dominant and will be expressed, while others are recessive and will only appear when both alleles are recessive. Another important concept is genetic variation, which is the diversity in genetic makeup among plants. Variation is essential for plant breeding because it provides the raw material for selecting and improving traits. This variation can be natural or induced through breeding techniques. Principles of plant breeding. Plant breeding is based on several key principles and methods, which we will now explore. 1. Selection. Selection is the process of choosing the best plants based on desirable traits. There are two main types of selection. Natural selection, where plants with favorable traits survive and reproduce on their own. Artificial selection, where breeders deliberately choose plants with specific characteristics to breed. Within artificial selection, there are different methods. Mass selection, where a large number of superior plants are selected and their seeds are used for the next generation. Pure line selection, where only the best-performing individual plant is selected and propagated. 2. Hybridization. Hybridization is the process of crossing two genetically different plants to create a new variety with improved traits. This method is commonly used in crops like maize, wheat, and rice to improve yield, resistance to diseases, and environmental adaptability. Hybrid plants often show what is called hybrid vigor, meaning they grow faster, produce more, and are more resilient. 3. Mutation breeding. Mutation breeding involves exposing seeds to radiation or chemicals to create beneficial genetic changes. Some of these mutations lead to useful traits like disease resistance or higher nutritional content. This technique has been successfully used in crops like wheat and barley. 4. Biotechnology in plant breeding. In recent years, biotechnology has played a major role in plant breeding. One of the most important advancements is genetic engineering, which allows scientists to introduce specific genes into plants. This has led to the development of genetically modified organisms, GMOs, that are resistant to pests, drought, or herbicides. Another powerful tool is tissue culture, where plants are grown in a laboratory from small cells, helping to produce disease-free, high-yielding crops. Objectives of plant breeding. The main goal of plant breeding is to improve crops in several ways. 1. Higher yield. One of the biggest challenges in agriculture is increasing food production. Through plant breeding, we can develop high-yielding varieties that produce more food per hectare. 2. Disease and pest resistance. Farmers lose a significant portion of their crops to diseases and pests. By breeding resistant varieties, we reduce reliance on chemical pesticides, making farming more sustainable. 3. Improved quality. Plant breeding is also used to enhance the nutritional value, taste, and shelf life of crops. For example, Biofortified crops like golden rice contain higher levels of vitamin A. 4. Climate resilience. With climate change causing more droughts, floods, and extreme weather conditions, it is essential to breed crops that can withstand these challenges. Scientists are developing varieties that are resistant to drought, heat, and salinity. A great example of plant breeding success is the Green Revolution, where scientists developed dwarf wheat and rice varieties that significantly increased global food production and helped prevent famine in many countries. Modern techniques in plant breeding. Plant breeding has advanced with modern scientific tools that make the process faster and more precise. Some of these include 1. Marker-assisted selection, MAS. Instead of waiting for plants to grow and mature, scientists can now analyze their DNA to identify the best candidates for breeding. This speeds up the selection process. 2. CRISPR gene editing, a revolutionary tool that allows scientists to edit plant genes with precision. This method is faster and more accurate than traditional breeding techniques. 3. Bioinformatics and AI in plant breeding. Computers and artificial intelligence are now being used to analyze large amounts of genetic data, helping breeders select the best traits efficiently. Future prospects and conclusion. As we look ahead, plant breeding will continue to play a vital role in addressing global food security, climate change, and sustainability. Some of the key challenges include ethical concerns surrounding GMOs, acceptance of new technologies, and biodiversity conservation. Despite these challenges, plant breeding is moving toward more sustainable and environmentally friendly solutions, including climate-smart crops, precision breeding, and AI-driven agriculture. To conclude, plant breeding and genetics are essential for feeding the world's growing population. As new technologies emerge, the potential to improve crops will continue to expand, making agriculture more productive, sustainable, and resilient. Thank you for your attention.